National Electrical Code Section 250.66 specifies the requirements for the size of the grounding electrode conductor. In general, the National Electrical Code requires the use of a number 6 copper or larger ground rod for all grounding electrode systems. This requirement is not dependent on the service size. This means that whether you have a small residential service or a large commercial service, the minimum size grounding electrode conductor to a ground rod is typically a number 6 copper. The purpose of the grounding electrode system is to provide a path to ground for fault current, helping to ensure the safety of people and equipment. It also helps to stabilize the voltage to ground during normal operation. The grounding electrode system typically consists of one or more ground rods, ground plates, or other approved grounding electrodes. The grounding electrode conductor connects the grounding electrode system to the service equipment, such as the main service panel. The size of the grounding electrode conductor is determined by the size of the service entrance conductors. However, there is a maximum size requirement for the grounding electrode conductor to a ground rod. According to National Electrical Code Section 250.66, the grounding electrode conductor to a ground rod does not need to be larger than number 6 copper. This means that even if the service entrance conductors are very large, the grounding electrode conductor to a ground rod can still be number 6 copper. It is important to note that this is just the minimum requirement. In some cases, it may be necessary to use a larger grounding electrode conductor to meet local requirements or to ensure adequate grounding. The New York State Electrical Code is based on the National Electrical Code, but may have additional or amended requirements. However, there is no specific deviation in the New York State Electrical Code regarding the size of ground rods. The requirement for a number 6 copper or larger ground rod for all grounding electrode systems, regardless of service size, is consistent across the National Electrical Code and the New York State Electrical Code. To further elaborate on the selection of grounding electrode conductors, it is essential to consult the National Electrical Code, specifically Article 250. This article provides detailed requirements for grounding and bonding. The grounding electrode conductor connects the grounding electrode to the equipment grounding bus or grounded conductor within the service equipment. The size of this conductor is determined by Table 250.66, based on the size of the service entrance conductors. However, as previously mentioned, there's a provision that limits the required size when connecting to certain grounding electrodes like ground rods or pipes. When connecting to a ground rod, pipe, or plate electrode, the grounding electrode conductor never needs to be larger than number 6 copper wire. This is because these electrodes are primarily intended to dissipate static charges and provide a reference point for voltage stabilization, rather than carrying large fault currents. The code makes an exception for concrete encased electrodes, often referred to as U for grounds and ground rings. For these types of electrodes, the grounding electrode conductor is sized based on the service entrance conductor size per Table 250.66, without the number 6 copper limitation. It is crucial to understand that the equipment grounding conductor, which runs with the circuit conductors, is a separate entity from the grounding electrode conductor. The equipment grounding conductor provides a low impedance path for fault current back to the source, facilitating the operation of overcurrent protective devices like circuit breakers. The size of the equipment grounding conductor is determined by Section 250.122, based on the rating of the overcurrent protective device. Proper installation and connection of grounding and bonding conductors are critical for electrical safety. All connections must be made using approved methods and connectors. Grounding electrodes must be installed in accordance with Section 250.52, ensuring they are in contact with the earth and provide a reliable grounding path. Regular inspection and maintenance of grounding systems are also important to ensure their continued effectiveness. This includes checking for corrosion, loose connections, and physical damage to the grounding electrodes and conductors. In summary, the National Electrical Code generally mandates a number 6 copper or larger grounding electrode conductor for a connection to ground rods, pipes, and plate electrodes, irrespective of the service size. This requirement is consistent with the New York State Electrical Code. However, It's always advisable to consult the latest edition of the National Electrical Code and any local amendments to ensure compliance with the most current regulations. Grounding and bonding are essential aspects of electrical safety, protecting people and equipment from electrical hazards. Understanding the code requirements and implementing them correctly is crucial for all electrical installations. When dealing with electrical installations, always prioritize safety and consult with qualified professionals to ensure compliance with all applicable codes and standards. Grounding and bonding are not only code requirements, but also essential safety measures that protect lives and property. By following the code and best practices, you can ensure a safe and reliable electrical system. Furthermore, it's important to understand the difference between grounding and bonding. Grounding connects the electrical system to the earth, providing a path for fault current to flow back to the source. Bonding connects all metal parts of the electrical system together, creating a low impedance path for fault current. Both grounding and bonding are necessary to ensure electrical safety. The grounding electrode system should be installed in accordance with Section 250.50 of the National Electrical Code. This section specifies the requirements for the grounding electrode system and how it should be connected to the electrical system. The grounding electrode system should consist of one or more of the following grounding electrodes: metal and a groundwater pipe, metal frame of the building or structure, concrete encased electrode, ground drain, rod and pipe electrodes, and other listed electrodes. The grounding electrode conductor should be connected to the grounding electrode system in accordance with Section 250.64 of the National Electrical Code. This section specifies the requirements for the grounding electrode conductor and how it should be connected to the grounding electrode system. The grounding electrode conductor should be sized in accordance with Table 250.66 of the National Electrical Code. This table specifies the minimum size of the grounding electrode conductor based on the size of the service entrance conductors. However, as previously mentioned, the grounding electrode conductor to a ground rod does not need to be larger than number 6 copper. The equipment grounding conductor should be installed in accordance with Section 250.130 of the National Electrical Code. This section specifies the requirements for the equipment grounding conductor and how it should be connected to the electrical system. The equipment grounding conductor should be sized in accordance with Section 250.122 of the National Electrical Code. This section specifies the minimum size of the equipment grounding conductor based on the rating of the overcurrent protective device. Bonding should be installed in accordance with Section 250.90 of the National Electrical Code. This section specifies the requirements for bonding and how it should be connected to the electrical system. Bonding should be used to connect all metal parts of the electrical system together, including metal conduits, metal enclosures, and metal equipment. Bonding helps to create a low impedance path for fault current, which helps to ensure that overcurrent protective devices operate properly. The importance of proper grounding and bonding cannot be overstated. Improper grounding and bonding can lead to electrical shock, fire, and equipment damage. Therefore, it is essential to follow all applicable codes and standards when installing and maintaining electrical systems. In addition to the National Electrical Code and the New York State Electrical Code, there may be local codes and regulations that apply to electrical installations. It is important to check with the local authorities to ensure that all electrical installations comply with all applicable codes and regulations. Electrical work should only be performed by qualified and licensed electricians. Electrical work can be dangerous and should only be performed by those who are trained and experienced in electrical work. When working on electrical systems, always follow safe work practices. This includes wearing appropriate personal protective equipment such as safety glasses and gloves. It also includes energizing the electrical system before working on it. Before working on any electrical system, always verify that the power is off. This can be done by using a voltage tester to check the voltage at the circuit breaker and at the equipment being worked on. If there is any voltage present, do not work on the electrical system. Call a qualified electrician to energize the system. After completing electrical work, always test the system to ensure that it is working properly. This can be done by using a voltage tester to check the voltage at the circuit breaker and at the equipment being worked on. If there is any voltage present, do not use the electrical system. Call a qualified electrician to repair the system. Grounding and bonding are essential for electrical safety. By following the code and best practices, you can ensure a safe and reliable electrical system. Always consult with qualified professionals to ensure compliance with all applicable codes and standards. Here are some additional points to consider regarding grounding electrode conductors and the National Electrical Code. Firstly, the size of the grounding electrode conductor is based on the size of the service entrance conductors, but it never needs to be larger than number 6 copper when connected to a ground rod, pipe, or plate electrode. Secondly, concrete encased electrodes and ground rings do not have the same number 6 copper limitation, and the grounding electrode conductor is sized based on the service entrance conductor size per table 250.66. Thirdly, the equipment grounding conductor is separate from the grounding electrode conductor, and its size is determined by the overcurrent protective device rating per section 250.122. Fourthly, proper installation and connection of grounding and bonding conductors are critical for electrical safety. Fifthly, regular inspection and maintenance of grounding systems are essential for their continued effectiveness. Remember to always consult the latest edition of the National Electrical Code and any local amendments for the most current regulations. Understanding these nuances is crucial for ensuring electrical safety and compliance. Also, let us consider the practical implications of these code requirements. For example, in a typical residential service, the service entrance conductors might be sized at 200 amps. According to table 250.66, this would normally require a number 4 copper grounding electrode conductor. However, because the grounding electrode conductor is connected to a ground rod, the number 6 copper limitation applies, and a number 6 copper conductor is sufficient. In a larger commercial building with a 400 amp service, the service entrance conductors would require a larger grounding electrode conductor according to table 250.66. However, if the grounding electrode system consists of ground rods, the grounding electrode conductor still does not need to be larger than number 6 copper. This can result in significant cost savings, as larger copper conductors can be expensive. It is important to note that the number 6 copper limitation only applies to the portion of the grounding electrode conductor that connects to the ground rod. If the grounding electrode system also includes other electrodes, such as a metal water pipe, the portion of the grounding electrode conductor that connects to the water pipe must be sized according to table 250.66 without the number 6 copper limitation. Furthermore, it is crucial to ensure that all grounding electrodes are properly bonded together to create a common grounding system. This bonding ensures that all metal parts of the electrical system are at the same potential, reducing the risk of electrical shock. The bonding jumpers must be sized according to section 250.102 of the National Electrical Code. In addition to the code requirements, there are also best practices that should be followed when installing grounding systems. For example, it is recommended to install at least 2 ground rods, spaced at least 6 feet apart. This provides a more reliable grounding path and reduces the impedance of the grounding system. It is also recommended to use exothermic welding to connect the grounding electrode conductor to the ground rods. Exothermic welding creates a permanent, corrosion-resistant connection that is more reliable than mechanical connectors. Finally, it is important to document the grounding system. This documentation should include the location of the grounding electrodes, the size and type of grounding conductors, and the method of connection. This documentation will be helpful for future maintenance and troubleshooting. In conclusion, understanding the National Electrical Code requirements for grounding electrode conductors is essential for ensuring electrical safety. While the code can be complex, it is important to follow all applicable rules and best practices to create a safe and reliable electrical system. Always consult with qualified professionals to ensure compliance with all applicable codes and standards. In addition to the points already discussed, it's crucial to consider the role of local amendments and interpretations of the National Electrical Code. While the National Electrical Code provides a baseline for electrical safety, local jurisdictions often adopt amendments that reflect specific regional needs or concerns. These amendments can sometimes be more stringent than the National Electrical Code itself, and it's essential to be aware of them when designing and installing electrical systems. Furthermore, the interpretation of the National Electrical Code can sometimes vary among inspectors and electrical professionals. While the code is intended to be clear and unambiguous, there can be situations where different interpretations are possible. In these cases, it's important to consult with a local electrical inspector or qualified electrical engineer to ensure that the installation meets their requirements. Another important consideration is the impact of technological advancements on grounding and bonding practices. As new types of equipment and systems are introduced, the grounding and bonding requirements may need to be updated to reflect these changes. For example, the increasing use of electronic devices and sensitive equipment has led to a greater emphasis on reducing electrical noise and interference. This can be achieved through proper grounding and bonding techniques, such as the use of isolated ground systems and shielded cables. Similarly, the growth of renewable energy systems, such as solar and wind power, has introduced new challenges for grounding and bonding. These systems often require specialized grounding techniques to ensure the safety of personnel and equipment. As technology continues to evolve, it's important for electrical professionals to stay up to date on the latest grounding and bonding practices and to adapt their methods accordingly. This may involve attending training courses, reading industry publications, and consulting with experts in the field. Grounding and bonding are not static concepts, but rather dynamic practices that must evolve to meet the changing needs of the electrical industry. In addition to the technical aspects of grounding and bonding, it's also important to consider the human element. Electrical safety is not just about following the code, but also about creating a culture of safety among electrical workers. This includes providing proper training, emphasizing the importance of safe work practices, and encouraging workers to speak up if they see something that they believe is unsafe. A strong safety culture can help to prevent accidents and injuries, and it can also improve the overall quality of electrical work. Electrical safety is a shared responsibility, and everyone involved in the electrical industry has a role to play in ensuring that electrical systems are safe and reliable. By working together, we can create a safer environment for electrical workers and the public. Finally, it's important to remember that grounding and bonding are not just about meeting code requirements, but also about protecting lives and property. Electrical systems can be dangerous, and proper grounding and bonding are essential for preventing electrical shock, fire, and equipment damage. When designing and installing electrical systems, always prioritize safety and take the time to do the job right. The consequences of improper grounding and bonding can be devastating, and it's simply not worth taking the risk. Electrical safety is a serious matter, and it should be treated with the utmost respect. As we continue to rely on electricity to power our homes and businesses, it's more important than ever to ensure that electrical systems are safe and reliable. By understanding the principles of grounding and bonding and by following the code and best practices, we can create a safer and more sustainable future for all.